Hi, everyone. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, and today we're going to be walking through how to create an incredible midpoint. I hope you had a chance to watch that scene. Whether you did or not, you've probably seen it at some point along the way, so I'll walk you through it so you can see what could actually draw actors, what could cause people to want to be part of your movie in one way or another. So here's the agenda. First, we're going to start with what makes a midpoint great, because this is probably if you've ever had the experience of being stuck as you are writing a script in the middle of the second act, a lot of times the solution to that is the midpoint. But also, what the midpoint does is it gives you a chance to take the drama to a whole different level. We'll do an analysis of the most remembered scene in the movie Alien. We'll then look at 8 powerful insights to sell scripts. My guess is part of the reason you're here is because that's one of the things you want to do. You're continuing to learn, you're continuing to move forward and to grow as a writer. Some of these could make a major change for you and get you exactly where you want to be. So, and then we'll talk about the upcoming class, Writing Incredible Movies. That is the most advanced screenwriting class that I know of, especially if you want to sell a script. If you just want to learn how to write, yes, there's all those skills in there, but I'm going to tell you the big focus of this program is how do you sell a script? How do you write every part of that screenplay to increase your chance of success? So, wouldn't you like to have that? All right, let's do it. So why are we analyzing the midpoint of Alien? A bunch of reasons. First, it's a great midpoint. It really is. And my hope is again that you found it interesting or possibly even jumped out of your seat when you were in the theaters. Also, it is the most memorable scene of the movie Alien, which was actually a pretty big success and sent Sigourney Weaver into stardom, basically. But this is the scene that most people remember when they talk about Alien. It also created a lot of buzz, and just as important, or maybe more important, it caused John Hurt to sign on to the movie. And if you look at that cast, at that point in time, John Hurt was the biggest star of this movie. He had had more success than anybody there. Most of the cast members were unknown, including Sigourney Weaver. Uh, you know, so they needed to get somebody that people recognized, and he was the one. And he said he signed on because of the scene that we're talking about today. So this kind of writing, as I said, sells scripts. That's what you really want. Let's do this. So here's what the structure looks like. And, ask yourself, do you ever have problems with structure? Are there any points that you need to make better? I'll tell you the thing we're talking about having to do with the midpoint. This is one of the critical scenes and the critical parts of your structure. So your structure starts with the opening. It then goes to the inciting incident. From there to the Act 1 turning point, right? Now we're going into Act 2, and then we have the midpoint at that point, right in the center, right in the middle. We have the Act 2 turning point. We're about to go into the final act. The climax, the big fight, the ultimate expression of the conflict, and finally, the ending. Now, if you look at this, if you master all of these, you're going to end up with great structure. So again, right now, we're just mainly talking about this one, but the journey on this, if you look at it from a midpoint perspective, the first half for them was about going home, right? That's what they were doing. They were on their way home. And they got interrupted by a call to go to a planet, and then a bunch of things happened, including the John Hurt character getting face planted by an alien. The second half is about surviving the alien. So this is also part of what a midpoint does. It's not just, oh, we're at the middle. It's you've got a story, and the first half has one focus and the second half has another, where we have upped the conflict, up the level at which the characters have to perform in order to survive, all of those kinds of things. So if you're ever stuck, by the way, if you're ever in the middle of your second act and you get stuck, one of the solutions is to look at the midpoint. How do you now escalate the conflict in a big way? So the midpoint, the journey continues in the same direction, right? It's still them trying to get back to Earth, but the meaning has changed in a big way that shifts reality. So here's some ways to create a good midpoint. And you really want to be thinking about this, because if you don't have a strong midpoint, you're going to have a hard time really making it through as a writer. It's like a lot of times people will work up to that point and then they'll just level off because their midpoint wasn't strong. Your midpoint should make the whole second act twice as powerful as the first. So here's some ways you could do that. You can change that meaning, right, by having the forces of antagonism be 10 times bigger than we thought. That's what happens in this movie. Reality has changed, like in The Matrix, where all of a sudden we're like, oh my God, the whole world is just a computer construct. Maybe the whole first half of the movie was a con. There's movies like that. They discover who's been betraying them at the midpoint. There are movies like that. Everything that their success was based on turns out to be wrong. Any of those could be a really strong midpoint. That just gives you some ways to be able to brainstorm it right now. So whatever shift you make, right, it has to disrupt the hero's reality. Really important. And this one did a good job of that. So let's take a look at it. So from a casting perspective, the value here, John Hurt signed on. He's the biggest star in the cast. He signed on, and this is what he said. He signed on because of this scene. He wanted to play that scene. He wanted to be there at the midpoint. He knew this was going to be a known for scene. And if you go look him up on IMDb, you'll see one of the movies he's known for is Alien, and it's because of this particular scene. So that's pretty powerful if you're trying to get a major actor to say yes. So this is him. He's hungry right now. So here's our setup. The team is gone. They went to the surface. The alien face-planted Kane. After a few days, it dropped off. He recovered. In this scene, the whole team is having their final meal before going back to hypersleep. And they seem to be just totally okay, right? They're relaxed. They're enjoying themselves. This is a celebration meal. Everybody's talking. They're laughing. Kane, on the other hand, is incredibly hungry. The audience experience at this point, we're relieved. And we're relieved mainly because the alien that was face planting him dropped off. And if you remember, they couldn't take the alien off of his face because as soon as they cut it, it dripped out acid that went through a couple of different floors of the ship. And they were worried it was going to get to the outside and that was going to cause a leak and all of that kind of thing. So now everybody's okay. This is great. Then Kane begins choking while Ash, remember Ash? He's our science guy, who ultimately turns out to be what is he? He's an AI, basically. Ash is watching. Our experience at this point is, okay, he just ate too fast, right? So we have no idea what's coming up. If you remember when you watched it the first time, I'm sure this scene shocked you out of your mind. The subtext here, though, is Ash knows what's going on. And he knows because this is part of his mission. So, and suddenly, Kane grabs his stomach. He falls onto the table, writhing in pain. The audience now is starting to worry. Obviously, these characters are starting to worry. Dallas and Parker try to help him, but he goes into these spasms. At that point, we've got intrigue. What's happening here? Something serious is happening. We have no idea what it is. We need to figure it out. Now, that takes us to the next scene where suddenly blood spurts out of his chest. You see it right there. And it splashes one of the women, which is a gross out moment, right? So we're shocked first that this happened to him, but this is our gross out moment right here. That fits the genre quite well. From there, this thing pops out, which was what I remember was that was shocking in a huge way. It pops it out and it looks around at them. So it's not just like something that's eating or something like that. It's like it's trying to figure out who's there, what's its opposition. Our experience at that point is horror. And Parker grabs a knife, but Ash stops him. Now, you may not have actually thought of it at that point. You may still be in the horror, but if you were thinking about it, if you watched it a second time, probably at this point there's intrigue. Why is Ash yelling not to touch it? That was curious. Everybody there was wondering why also, as in the crew was. And that takes us to this. The alien jumps out of the dead body and scurries off. There he is. There's his tail. And he's hauling ass out of there. Now, remember, at this point, he's like 10 inches tall or something. I don't know what it is. The next time we see him, he's at least 6 foot tall. So this is quite an alien. The audience experience at this moment is an oh my God kind of experience. It's like we just had about 2 incredibly difficult things happen at once. For one, we just saw this guy die right in front of us, and it was a shocking scene. We went from everything's wonderful to suddenly this alien popping out at us. And that's the second thing. It's not just that he just popped out, but he just ran off and they have no idea how to deal with him. And suddenly, he's this predator in their world. So just to clarify here again, before the midpoint, the ship was taking the crew to Earth. After the midpoint, the ship is taking the alien to Earth. And what we know at this point is they're trying to stalk it from from that scene on. They're trying to stalk it and stop it. But Ash has a mission to get the alien to Earth, and the humans are expendable. So yeah, same journey, different meaning, escalated conflict. Now, my guess is by now you can see really clearly how important your midpoint is. And I gave you a list of different ways to do them before, but you look at your story and say, okay, first, what could escalate that conflict in a huge way? If we're on the same journey, what could be a different meaning to it? Is this the point where somebody turns on them? Is this the point where they find out they just lost their funding, or they lost their home, or the hurricane hits, or whatever it is, right? There's something that has happened that has the whole second half of this movie have a different meaning that is much more powerful, probably much more conflict oriented. Now, let's take a look at the 8 insights to sell your script. Because again, my guess is this is one of the goals you have. Right now is a prime time to sell it. This is one of those moments in time. It's like we've been waiting for the last, 2 years, ever since the WGA strike started. Everything's been on hold, but the industry is back. I just finished talking with a producer and a studio exec, and they said they're back. They're buying projects. They're looking into the future right now. So right now is your time. This is when you want to be doing this. So insight number one, create the pitch first. Now, let me ask you, have you ever had this happen? You write the script, you get to the end of it, you're pretty happy with the script. Maybe you're getting feedback from people and that kind of thing. And you finally think, okay, let me see if I can get it to a producer or an agent or a manager or somebody like that. And now you have to create a pitch of something that's already written. Now, if you haven't been through that, what I can tell you is I did it first three scripts I wrote that we pitched, that we got into production companies. I waited till afterwards to create the pitch. Once I understood this, I interviewed an A-list screenwriter about that point, and he said he creates his pitch first. He says he doesn't write anything unless he already knows it can sell. And I was like, oh, so I did that. It made it so much easier first, but second, when we got there, the script delivered powerfully on the pitch. So I didn't have what happened on the first three, which was in order for me to come up with a pitch that sold it, I had to deviate from what the script was and either go back and rewrite the whole thing or hand them a script and hope they still liked it, even though it didn't deliver on the pitch. Both of which didn't work, by the way. So create your pitch first. If you're about to write something, do like the A-list writers do, right? And that's our whole focus. You know, long time ago, I interviewed that first A-list writer and I stood back and went, wow, they think differently. How could we think and create that way? Right? How could we write in a way that increases our chance of selling? So this is it. The pitch gets your script request, right? And that's the thing you need when you get to a producer. If you can't get them to request the script, they're not going to read it, right? So the pitch gets them to request it. Scripts that then honor the pitch make sales. So again, write the pitch first. It's then so much easier to make sure that the script actually honors it. And then knowing the pitch makes it easier for you to write a coherent script. So insight two. After you like the pitch, make it even better. And this one I learned on like the fifth script that we took in. I really liked the pitch at the beginning. And really what I was doing was I was looking at it and I was still thinking at that point, wow, that'll be a great story. I'd love to write that story. And I needed to do this. So what happened on that one was I got there, the producers turned down the first pitch. I then had to elevate it at that point, and that meant I had to go back and do a whole rewrite again. So once you like the pitch, go pitch it to some friends, pitch it to some other people, and make sure it's the best it can be, right? Because again, that pitch is what sells you and gets your script in the door so they can read it. So here's just a few tips on this. The title has to sell. If you have a title that's innocuous, right, that you don't know what it means or nobody else knows what it means, or they have to read all the way to page 72 before they find out, in that case, you just need a different title. And this is really these 1 to 4 words in your title is worth so much, because if a producer doesn't hear a title that can sell, you're almost like you're 30% to failing at that point. Don't let that happen. Second, then you need a high concept. You need something that if you just have time to say one sentence, it lights them up. Most of the scripts that we got requested, we did it on the phone. My wife and I were producing at one point. We would just get on the phone and call them up, and we would tell them the genre, the title, and the high concept, and we'd stop talking. And in the beginning, it was like 30% of them were requesting it. By the time we had a relationship with them, about 80% would request the script based on genre, title, high concept, without us telling them anything else. So the genre, by the way, needs to be the best choice for what you're doing. And really, everything you say either makes the project attractive or you don't say it. Insight 3, write from intrigue as much as drama. So I see this all the time. People will create drama. They've gotten really good at creating drama. And drama is good, it's important, and it's valuable. Get just as good at creating intrigue. So intrigue means there's something beneath the surface that calls to the audience, right? Let's go back to what we just saw. If we were just watching that scene for the first time, when the guy starts grabbing his stomach, when he rolls onto the table, right? There's something going on, and we're trying to figure it out, and the characters are trying to figure out, right? And then when all of a sudden there's blood on his shirt, it's like, oh my God, there's something happening here. That's intrigue. There's something beneath the surface that is calling to us to figure it out. You need to be constantly creating curiosity, anticipation, suspense, right? And intrigue makes it easier to do that. And then create situations with hidden agendas, covert actions, deeper layers. All of these create intrigue. So I would practice writing from that as much as you can. How do you build that into, the 10 most important scenes in your script? So your audience is constantly wondering. They're constantly going, oh my God, what's happening here, right? That's your job. And then 4, write to sell to actors. So this is a little different than some people think it is. There's a lot of people that think writing to sell to actors is just about, if I love the character, they will. My big question is what's going to cause them to say yes? What's going to cause an actor to say, out of all the projects that they have available to them, they want to do yours? That's important. So first thing I'd look at is, what are the 3 scenes that will cause actors to sign on? And again, if we looked at just that one character that John Hurt played, first, he's the first one that wakes up. And that makes him intriguing in the beginning because we don't know, at that time, we didn't know everything that was going on there. We didn't know that they were in hypersleep. We didn't know a whole bunch of other things. He's the first one that gets up. We get a chance to see him. We live with him a little bit. So he's the first one, which means we're going to connect with him, right? So that means something to an actor. That's their introduction, Then their ending. What's the ending? And we saw the ending. It's like, wow, that's an intense ending. It's also something that makes it, that's memorable. And then if they have a monologue, which I don't think this guy does, if they have a monologue, make that really compelling. So he's got 2 out of the 3. It was enough to cause him to sign on. Then you want to build in what I'm calling the 9 actor attractors. And this, I'll just give you a couple here. It's like, is this the most interesting character there is in this movie? Actors are looking for something that will have them stand out, especially when you're, in this case, you've got like 6 characters. But when you have a movie that has 15 or 20 characters, it's like the major actors need to stand out in a big way. So they have the most interesting actions, they have the most interesting dialogue, they're the most interesting character there. So I'll talk to you about the 9 actor attractors later. So insight 5, the real story is what's beneath the surface, right? There's a story beneath the story, a plot beneath the plot. There's deeper layers going on. And in this, the one we just watched, if we watch Alien, what we know is that our AI there, the science officer, actually has a mission that includes letting them all die if necessary. There's a whole story beneath that. There's a whole plot that's going on beneath the surface. We think we're in the plot of, hey, these people are coming home. They're trying to survive. For the science officer, Ash, his plot is, I just need to get that alien on board and make sure I get it back home, or back to the world, to Earth. So it's like he's got this whole different thing going on, which interrupts their plot and becomes the ultimate plot that we know of. Your surface character versus who they really are, Ash seems like a guy who he looks and acts like a science officer. We believe him on the surface, but who he really is he's an AI with a mission that doesn't care about human beings. And then building subtext into the pitch, the character, the structure, the situation, the action, the dialogue. There's a lot of different places here I could point to subtext, but let's go to the next one. Insight 6. Solve the problems in the early draft. I've interviewed about 50 different readers in this industry that go all the way from script consultants all the way to the other side, which is the studio readers. And they're just looking for a problem. If you get your script to a studio reader, they're looking for a reason to say no. And I'm telling you, it's not because of anything else. It's because it's not because they're bad people or anything like that. It's because they don't want to lose their job by recommending something that turns out to be a flop. So the easiest thing they can do is just say no. And so don't give them any of these problems. The other thing is I'd solve them as early as possible, because the longer you leave the problems in, the more likely they're going to get locked in. And I don't know if you've experienced this, and let me ask you, have you? Have you ever experienced looking at a draft and saying, oh, I don't really like that one part, I've got to change that. And then forgetting to do that, and 2-3 drafts later, you're thinking, wow, that just feels normal. I'm comfortable with that. Back to the readers, I ask them, how many scripts do you see that after the writer thinks it's done, they still have structure problems? The script consultants that I talked with said it's about 60%. And then I said, okay, and how many of them do you see that after the writer thinks the script is done, still have some other kind of major problems? And their answer now was about 90% total have something under the surface that somehow got locked in and causes you to have to do a complete rewrite. And don't feel bad about this, by the way. The more we work with something, the more normal it becomes to us. And so it's, there are lots of things where we live with problems for decades because somewhere along the way they normalized for us. Solve the problems in draft 2, not in draft 10. This is our policy. The big problems, I want to solve those as early as possible. And again, this was something I learned talking with an A-list screenwriter. And he said this, he says, I write one draft just to see if I can get the story down, just to see if I can see who the characters are. And he said, then I stand back and say, what are the big problems that I can get rid of? And he says, I try to do that early, again, so they don't get locked in. And again, this means looking deep, which is okay, right? Especially when you're in an early draft. It's okay to look and say, wait a minute, where are the problems here? Insight 7, master emotional sequencing. Now, what is this? What do we mean here? You just saw this in this scene. You really did. There's emotional sequencing that's happening, right? It's like we're building the emotion into the scenes, but we're creating a sequence of those emotions that increase the audience engagement. Imagine this scene if it started with the guy comes in and he's having stomach problems, and then he lays down on the table. It's like from the beginning, we were in the same problem that's happening from that point on. But that's not what they did. What they did was they created a sequence of emotions that started in one place and then built to a climax. So you want to get really good at this. I would go through and I'd look at every one of your major scenes and just look and ask yourself, what's the emotion at the beginning of the scene? What's the emotion at the end? Uh, if they're even close to being the same, I'd go back to the beginning and either set it up more powerfully, take it to an opposite kind of emotion, or give us an emotion that will have us ultimately be caught off guard or something like that, or go to the end and make the climax significantly more powerful. And this is what I'm talking about. Here are your most important scenes. Then, number 8, believing in yourself. Absolutely paramount on this. You're about to go on a journey that starts wherever you are right now and completes with you having your movies made and being successful. And in the midst of that, you're going to go through a lot of things, right? So your objective is probably, at least I hope it is this your objective? To truly pursue your vision. Even when others don't, even when 10 producers turn you down, right? If you believe in yourself strongly enough, nothing can stop you. But you've got to build that belief. And when people talk about, like I hear writers sometimes say they're passionate, and they're passionate when they're excited about it and they're telling about it and that kind of thing. In this industry, when somebody says this writer is passionate, what they mean is that you stay through everything, that you never stop, that your passion isn't just a 1-minute thing, it's everything, right? That you're strong from start to finish. Even if 20 producers say no to you or 30 or whatever, that's just part of the game. And by the way, every time a producer says no to you, your job is to make your pitch stronger or to make the way you present it stronger. Your job is to learn something from that turn down that makes you more successful in the future, right? So this is believing in yourself isn't about what they do or don't do. It's about you. You keep going no matter what. It doesn't matter what they do. You keep going. And keep this in mind. First, last time I checked, there were roughly 5,000 to 10,000 producers. I get different numbers from different people. Inktip told me they had 5,000 producers just on their list of people that they go out to with projects. And those are all small producers. So you may go to 20 producers in a row that say no, and the next one says, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And that just requires, again, you believing in yourself. By the way, believing in yourself is also, if somebody trashes your script and you decide to go back and rewrite it, and then you come back and you pitch again. It doesn't matter what other people say. The whole thing, we're all, and I'm just telling you things. I have helped about 600 writers make their first deal. I can tell you most of them at some point had somebody that trashed them. Most of them had some people that told them this movie would never be made, this script will never work, nobody will buy it. The fact that they kept going is what made them successful. So in our case, most of them, we were doing a class where we were marketing nonstop. I have one coming up right now where in 2 weeks, we're going to start marketing for 30 days straight. Uh, that particular class, every single time we have at least 1 to 4 writers who end up making deals. Uh, and again, it's the ones who believe in themselves enough so that it doesn't matter what the other people do. Okay, I'll stop talking about that now. Let me show you something here. And this is part of what is ultimately going to have you be incredibly successful. So hang on just a second. You guys know this. This is ChatGPT. We absolutely do not believe in ChatGPT writing anybody's script. There's a whole bunch of reasons why. But essentially, that's, you know what, that's first, ChatGPT isn't good enough to do that. But second, if you do that, you won't get a copyright. And third, that doesn't make you a better writer. However, ChatGPT is amazing for brainstorming ideas. And I want to show you this so that you can see what's possible if you have the right prompts, if you know what you're doing in the midst of this, and see what you could do. Now, let's just take it a couple of steps here. So this is what we're doing basically is we're looking at having it come up with project ideas in the beginning. And let's see if you notice, let's see. So I just started with something really simple. Sci-fi project. The subject, a moon-based prison collapses into tunnels that were created by aliens. So we've got an intriguing world already, right? We've got a moon-based prison, and then we're going to collapse into these alien tunnels, which means the aliens have been there. So I ask it to create a project, a very specific kind of project here. We have the concept in 25 words or less. We have the main conflict, the surprising twist. We have a deeper layer and an intriguing world. The way we're designing this, we're specifically looking for things that haven't already been done on television or in feature films. But I ask it to give us 5 different possible examples so that we could pick from something. So just a moment here. And this one's secret. A secret off-books prison collapses into alien tunnels, revealing horrifying truths about why the prisoners were really sent there and what Earth knew all along. So I like this for a couple of reasons. I just glanced at it and it's like, oh, that's cool. Because it's got intrigue in it, right? There's some reason they were sent there that they don't know, and they were chosen on purpose, and the Earth knew all along what they were being sent there for, what was about to happen, right? Now, you'd look through all of this and see what else, but here's a third one. I ask it for actually 5. Now, with that, let me take you to the next step here. So what we're doing here is we're brainstorming. That's it. And we're looking for different possible ways. Just a second here. We're looking for different possible versions of this project that we could start working with, that we could start playing with. I'm not going to use everything AI gave me. In fact, what I usually do is I pick something that I really like, and then I go back and say, okay, what of this do I like? What don't I like? Usually about 30–40% of it survives. And then I start playing with it and bring my own creativity to the table. But you don't want to be sitting there like just looking at a blank screen, because not having any of this information means a lot of times people have a tendency to get stuck. What these are really is they're just prompts to your creativity. It's a chance for you to think outside the box and see what else could come up. and then bring your creativity to that table. Now let's take a look. Now I'm asking it to give us some characters. And you'll see up here, it tells us the genre, the concept, the intriguing world of the one I selected, and the main conflict. But here's our protagonist. This is an ex-neuropsychiatrist turned prisoner. Interesting character. And it gives us the core traits, the motivation, what that character's wound is. We're not creating a complete profile for the character here. All I wanted to do was have it give us the kind of thing that would make it really easy for us to be able to create and to build them into a structure. So there's our protagonist. Here's our antagonist. And I had to give us a couple more characters that could be supporting characters that could work with them. Let's take it one more step here. And I'll stop after that. But I just wanted you to see what else is possible. So now I'm asking it to give us a 4-act structure. And you can write in whatever you want. I used to write in the 3-act structure, but I really like this 4-act structure. It makes it much easier, especially when you come to the second act. You're not having to do 60 pages all at once. You can do them in two, a 30 and a 30. And it's just so much easier. So here's our act 1. Here's an opening, an inciting incident, a turning point. Act 2, we now have a new plan because we had a turning point, right? We had a major shift. We now have to come up with a new plan. The character puts the plan in action. Then there's this midpoint. And again, you get to look at the midpoint and ask yourself, does it deliver on everything we just talked about? Act 3, now because of the midpoint, everything has changed. They have to rethink everything. They put a new plan into action. And then we have another turning point, which takes us into Act 4, the final confrontation, right? And we have the climax, the ultimate expression of the conflict, and finally, the resolution. Now, if you look what just happened, I want you to see that because it's like pretty important. We just created a project. Really, if I took out all my talking, I can create that project in 5 minutes. And then what I actually would do at this point is I would spend the next 2 days going through and making choices and changing things and, elevating things, getting rid of everything that I don't like. And by the time I've done that in about a 2-day, half an hour to an hour each day, I've got a project that is mine that came from some great ideas that were no different than if you had your writers group, brainstorm with you. And on top of that, I had a chance to go through and pick the very best ones from the things that the AI said. So it's outside the box, it's unique, it's compelling. Now, let me ask you something. What if you did this kind of brainstorm session 5 or 6 times before you picked the next project you were going to write? And think about that for a moment. What that means is, let's say you did it 5 times. Let's say today I brainstormed this, I spend the next 2 days working with it and playing with it. I've got it up to a certain level and I'm going, wow, that's an amazing project. And then I did it again, spent the next couple of days doing that. Again. I've got 5 projects now that I've worked with every one of them to take them to a place where I absolutely love them. And now I'm picking the one that has the best chance of selling. Now, I want you to just check this out. Instead of just jumping in and writing, what I just did was came up with some great ideas and then elevated them and then picked the best of 5. And that's the one that we then take to the next level and bring into this class that's coming up and make it something that really can sell. So this is the difference between an amateur and a pro. First thing is, let's back up for a second. First thing is The A-list screenwriters write to sell. That's their objective. You know, most people, especially if they've written 1 to 5 scripts, are still writing because an idea popped into their mind and they just went with it. And they didn't think about whether it would sell or not. And they had no idea how to pitch it or any of that kind of thing. They're just writing. And it's okay. That's how you learn. But if you want to sell, you need to be focusing on the things that will sell. It's a high concept that gets your project into the bigger producers. It's characters for major actors that get actors on board. And you could say, well, any character could be for a major actor. That's from your side, but what do you think the actor is thinking when they have 50 producers coming at them, all with different projects, and they have their pick of characters? So we need to make sure we take our characters to a really high level and give you that chance. Then you need a fascinating structure and plot. And that's why when we're brainstorming those projects, we're not just looking at the story. We're looking at, is the structure something really, really strong? Does every beat do what it's supposed to do? And by the way, does that then create a journey for these major characters that actors will absolutely go out of their way to want to live, right? So second thing that A-list writers do is they have higher quality writing skills and processes. A lot of times I'll talk with people and I'll say, so how did you create that character? And they'll go, oh, she just came to me. I was just thinking about this story and, I just went, oh my God. And she just kind of came to me and I just kind of built over time. And it's like, okay, but A-list writers aren't just working with just what comes to them. Many times they have, in order to create anything, an initial idea pops into their head, and then they brainstorm 5 to 10 to 20 other versions and pick the best. It's like what we're talking about doing with these AI prompts is don't just use them once, brainstorm a whole bunch of things and pick the very, very best. Third thing is, again, A-list writers totally believe in themselves. And they believe in themselves enough to test their projects before they write. A lot of them have told me they will call 3, 4, 5 people who they know and pitch them to see what kind of response they get. And if they don't get a response, they either go back and write the pitch again, or they go on to a different project that does get them a response. So this whole thing, believing in yourself, isn't just about somebody who says, no, I can do it. I can do it. It's about you being able to go through the tough times. It's about you being able to rethink things when something isn't working. It's about you being able to improve your pitch. When Cheryl and I were pitching, there were, I can think of at least 20 times where we went into pitch meetings, walked in and pitched it one way. When it didn't work, we either changed the pitch right then, or we changed it in the car in between that meeting and the next meeting. And, we kept testing it out until we had something that worked. And some people would say, well, that's not believing in yourself because you didn't stick with the same thing. It's the opposite. Believing in yourself is your willingness to create and to keep creating and to do whatever it takes to make it happen. Now, let me give you a way to do these so that you really can succeed, so that you have a real chance. This is a program where you're going to create one project. You're going to start from the very beginning with the entire purpose being create a project that has a real chance of selling. You'll be learning professional strategies at every single step. Most people write with whatever they learned early on. Again, when people are saying, oh, it's something just popped into my mind and that's just what I did. It's like, okay, that's a first step of about 6 before you make that decision. So what we did was we interviewed A-list screenwriters. And here's what we found out. This is module one. First thing we do is the question is, what's your pitch? Now, remember, you're coming into this program with the best of 5 or 10 different projects that you use the AI prompt on. You have been, you've really thought about this. You've worked with each one of those. You're picking the one that has the best chance of selling. You create your pitch in module one. So you now have a pitch that you know can sell. If you've never done this before, that's going to give you a level of confidence that you've never had before. You will know from the very beginning, I've got something. I know that this can sell. It's not just that I love it. It's that when I pitch it to other people, it lights them up. Then from there, we'll go to module two, where you'll take that pitch and you'll turn it into an outline. Now, in this case, what we're doing is the first version of the outline is just to make sure the story works and to make sure it delivers on that pitch powerfully. From there, then you go to characters that attract actors. So you're going to be looking at your characters, and we're going to design them to be able to be pitched to actors. And if you're thinking, well, it's the producer's job to do this, what I can tell you is when a producer has 400 or 500 scripts coming to them a month, and they have people reading them and everything else, the producer isn't going to sit there and say, well, how do I pitch this to an actor? They're going to want to look at a character and almost instantly see that they can sell this to an actor. So we're going to design the pitch up front. So all of this is basically creating a pitch and making sure that it works when you get to producers, agents, and managers. Then once you've got all of that and you've made all of these decisions, then it's about making your outline incredible. Because if you have an incredible outline, you have an incredible script. Now, listen, I want to say this because it's important. We ran 3 different contests, some of which you might have heard of. And I saw the bottom 90% of the scripts that came into those contests had problems that should have been solved in the outline. The other thing about those was most of them were delivered on only 2 levels. They had a surface level and 1 level below that. We are in your outline here. By the time you're done, you'll have an outline that may be better than any script you've ever written. It'll be delivering on multiple levels, 3, 4, 5 levels deep. And that'll make that script incredible. Now, once you have that, with that outline, you now go to a high-speed first draft. And this is about getting the words on paper, but it's also about learning how to write really fast. Our objective in this is that you double the speed at which you normally write so that you have 2 different speeds. You can do your normal write, and then if you're working with a producer or you have to meet a deadline, you can double the speed of that, maybe even triple the speed at which you write because you learned the model that we have there. From there, module 6, now we're going to go into the second draft, and here we're going to solve the problems early. And what I'm going to do on this, so that you can create a problem-free draft, I will give you a list of all the problems that people usually have when they get to the second draft. We've got about 25 of them. You'll simply look through that list and identify any that actually stand out for your script. And then you just simply move over to the next column, and there we have a solution. So every problem that you could have in a second draft, we have a solution to, and you can solve it right then. What that means is when you finish your second draft, you have a problem-free script. There's no problems in that script. And this will change your life, because then you're free to make it amazing. Most people would stop at a problem-free script and go, there's nothing wrong with my script now. That's not all you want. Now we need to elevate the quality. So you're going to look at the quality of the structure, and you're going to elevate that, the quality of the characters, and the quality of the scenes. And at this point, The reason why we're looking back at the structure is because way back over here, whenever you wrote it, up here, right here, where you're designing your outline, whenever you created that structure, you didn't know everything you know at Module 7 at Draft 3, right? So now you have a whole story. So there are points where you'll look and go, oh my God, if I just change this one thing, it makes it twice as good. Think about Alien if that thing hadn't popped out of the guy's belly, right? Change that one midpoint, and suddenly that movie is so much better. So you'll get a chance to do that right here. Module 8, now we go to amazing dialogue. And this means you're going to look at every single line of dialogue for each of your lead characters, your protagonist, your antagonist. I'll give you about 15 different ways to make them better. And every chance you get, you're going to do that so that you get major actors. Once you've done that, then it's about wordsmithing to the perfection. This is something you're probably already good at. Most writers are. We'll give you a couple of other tips that make it really easy. And then finally, advanced marketing campaigns. How do you get this project in the door? That's important. You need to get your scripts read. Also, what we focus on is how do you build a network of producers, agents, and managers to read your scripts? So you will learn how to do that so that you're not just standing there going, well, I've got a script, but I don't know where to take it. And there are, yes, of course, there are services out there. That's a start. But this is about you putting it in your control. What if you had, and this is what every A-list screenwriter has, by the way, what if you had a network where these people know you and where you go back to them with your next script and then the one after that? When the producers see script after script, sooner or later, they're going to say yes. Now, this is a 6-month-long program. During that, you're going to go through 100 lessons. Every lesson is about your script. You are creating the next part. We have it laid out so it's incredibly simple. You are going to be learning like crazy. We have 38 mastery sessions in there that take everything you do to a higher level. And I have 30 professional level AI prompts that are better than the ones I just showed you. So the ones I just showed you were the ones just when you're just brainstorming an idea. Here we're talking about things like how do you take a character that you love that's really good and make it twice or 3 times as interesting to an actor, right? And you will learn the process, you will learn the skills, you will know what you're doing, but the AI prompts will give you a chance to brainstorm outside the box and see if there's anything you haven't thought of. Again, these are all brainstorming prompts. They're not having AI write your project. The date on this, if I'm correct, it's May 17th. That gives you about a month to be able to brainstorm projects with AI, brainstorm projects on your own, and do what it takes to be able to bring in something absolutely amazing. Now, let me give you a special on this to make it easy for you. Regular price on it is $12.99. We've had lots of people pay that. This program we've had for about the last 2 or 3 years. We've had, I'd say, at least 30 writers have made some kind of deal from this program. And we've had people who've gotten managers who love how the writers write because they know what they're doing every step of the way. So my special price on this, the special is $649, which is half price. Right now we're a month out. This is your chance. This is for the first 10 people. You can get in for half price on this. On the payment plan, if you need that, you can get in for 7 months at $99, which has a little bit extra money in it just to pay for doing it over time. But for $99 basically a month, you can be in this program where every single lesson you are learning something new, you are becoming a stronger writer, and you're working on a project that has a chance of selling. at minimum, it is going to make you look like a pro. We have had lots of people, by the way, also who have won contests. We've had 2 winners at Nickel. We've had winners at Page, grand prize winners at Page International. Final draft, we've had multiple winners who then went on to get managers in that situation. One of our winners at Page got a manager, made a deal within a month after that. So we've had lots of success that you know of. And then we've had over 600 deals inside of our alumni. Once you go through this program, you will be invited into our alumni. You'll be part of a professional group where writers there are already working with producers. Many of them have agents and managers, and a lot of them have movies and or paid writing assignments that they have done. So it's a place, a high quality network. It also is a place where if you ask questions, you get real answers from people who know what they're talking about and who are in your network, so they want to make sure that you succeed. So again, all you got to do, write down the link that's appropriate in the situation. This one gets you in for $649. You save $650. And this one gets you in for $99 a month for 7 months. Makes it easy for you to be able to go through the process and take care of things and master these skills. So by the time you're done, you will have an incredible script. You'll have something that you are so proud of. And if you're part of a writers group, you may have gone from being one of the average ones in there to the absolute best in the room. You will know and understand things that other writers don't know because they've never ever talked with a producer or an agent or asked any of the questions that we ask in order to design this program. So come join us. I promise you, you will absolutely love it. If by the 3rd day of the program you don't like it for any reason, just email me and we will give you all your money back. So we take really good care of writers. So with that, it was great hanging out with you. I hope you got a lot out of this, and I'll see you in writing incredible movies. Bye-bye, everyone.